everybody, welcome to the Fired Up with CJ show. Today we're going to be talking to Russell Delman and his body of work called the Embodied Life. So welcome, Russell.
Well, thank you, CJ. I'm happy to talk to you.
I wanted to find out first to hear about your personal story because you have a really interesting
Mm,
life history and you've met
mm,
some fascinating people.
mm. Yes.
Moshe Feldenkrais, which I've heard is amazing to meet him, and then Mother
Right.
Teresa. So I
Right.
just wanted to talk to you a little bit about your spiritual journey, when
Mm,
it began, and how those people and other people have kind of affected you along the way, and
mm.
how they helped in terms of developing your work.
Oh, great. Great. Yeah, so I can say that I've been so lucky, I've been so blessed in this life that for no apparently good reason from my personal history, when I was 18 years old, kind of recovering from my first broken heart, I
Mm.
discovered Zen meditation, and which has taught me ever since then that it's often our suffering that leads to great openings,
Mm.
right? And so I met Zen meditation, and somehow there was just a resonance, and
Mm-hmm.
I started meditating and never stopped. I didn't have a teacher for the first 5 years, but I was just drawn to spend time on my cushion each day. And so I can't really explain that, but
Yeah.
that happened.
And
And
tell us a little bit for people who are unfamiliar with Zen meditation. I'm not really familiar with Zen
yeah,
meditation. What is it?
yeah. So the main point of this style, there are different styles of Zen. This
Mm-hmm.
style is so wonderful because it's so simple. It's
Mm-hmm.
not easy, but it's really simple. You're basically learning to just sit with yourself without any mantras, without any candle gazing, without what some Zen teachers called without any candy, right? So
No
basically,
voice leading me, no guided meditation. I'm just sitting.
no beautiful picture.
Oh, God, Lord, help me.
So basically, I consider it the highway to self discovery because everything that appears is you with you. If you're
Mm,
settled in yourself, you can have an ecstatic period or at least a pleasant period. If you're troubled with yourself or you're struggling with your body or your emotions or your thoughts, that's what will appear. And so,
mm,
in my way of thinking of it, what I call embodied meditation, which is based in Zen, is learning to be friendly with yourself, friendly with your mind, which means friendly with your life. Because if you can be friendly with what arises in
mm-hmm.
your thinking, in your feelings, and in your body, you will be friendly with your life.
Okay, wait. I want to go a little bit into that. So you're 18 years old.
Yeah,
Your heart is broken from a breakup with your girlfriend.
yeah.
So if you can recall, take us through the Zen meditation and what that looked like at that moment when you're
Yeah.
sitting. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So let me just say what the confluence of events was. So there I was experiencing my first real grief
Mm-hmm.
and loneliness and etc. And I read an article on Zen that talked about kind of the voices in your head, what you can notice that goes on. And that was a great discovery
Mm-hmm.
that I could notice the voices going on in my head.
Mm,
That's an amazing realization that you are
right.
not the voices, that you have voices.
Yes,
That changes your life
it
when you
does.
realize that. And
Yes.
so here I was 18, and I started to notice that almost every moment I was talking to myself.
Ah, okay.
And that discovery, and at the same time reading this article on Zen, I said, oh, that's what they're talking about. So
Ah.
I got on the cushion and began to notice that 99 moments out of 100, I was lost in a story.
Ah, okay. And so the idea of the thoughts, and then sometimes they knit together in a narrative. Oh, she
Correct.
left me, or I left her, or
Right,
whatever. You're kind
right,
of,
right.
I'm
Exactly.
so lonely. When am I ever going to find another person? What
Right.
was wrong with me, or whatever? That's
Exactly.
what I would normally would go through during. So you just kind of sat there and go, "Wow, I had 100. I have a story, 100 thoughts."
Hmm.
And that's what occupied. And how many minutes did you start off with your
Well, I
meditation?
started at about 20 minutes, And I noticed that, so I would have a narrative going about my girlfriend. Then all of a sudden, I'm thinking about psychology class. And then I'm back with my girlfriend. And then I'm wondering what I'm going to have for dinner. And then I'm back. So then I began to notice how random this was.
This crazy voice.
Right? So you have what is sometimes called the monkey mind. And when you
Right.
realize you've got this mind that's jumping all over, and that it's essential, in my opinion, that we cultivate a different kind of what I call life-giving relationship with
Mm.
the voices that occur. The idea is not to get rid of the voices, but have them in service to the being that is here.
So that's what you talk about. You mentioned earlier, friendly dialogue with it.
Exactly.
Okay, so what is here? Mine is usually like a Catholic school teacher. Not that I have that, but this is what I imagine it would be like. He was like, "You lost your focus again. Get
Right.
back. Why are you thinking about dinner? Oh
Right.
my God, you're back at that story again. Oh my God, like that. So I'm actually, I'm doing a kind of Woody Allen type of punitive dialogue with myself.
Right.
What does a friendly dialogue look like?
Well, it's for many of us seeing that kind of really self-violent, judgmental, habitual voice.
Yes.
And I'm just fresh back from a month in Europe. I go to Europe to teach a lot. And the Germanic cultures really even trump us in that.
Oh, okay, good. What does it sound like if you're in Germany? What does a German voice sound like?
Well, we're all pretty good at it.
Yeah.
So what is often the biggest step for people is how to step back from the judge and
Mm.
say, I see you there.
Oh.
Because the judge, this highly critical voice that most of us have, which is part of Judeo-Christian culture, this very strong judgmental voice, when you get under it, it's not your enemy. It's actually worried that if it
Mm.
doesn't take care of you, doesn't point out your mistakes, that something terrible is going to happen.
Right.
So when you really get that there are no enemies in there, there's just
Ah.
misguided voices.
Yeah, it's afraid like you're asleep at the wheel and I need to wake you up because
Right,
there's some
right,
dangerous thing that you don't know about. So I need to
right.
tell you. Okay, got it. So when that voice says to you, wh- when is lunch? Are we going to have that borscht stew? Like what?
Well,
I hope they have sandwiches.
right. So what friendliness looks like is, hello there, I see you.
Oh. Oh, me?
And then back to the next breath, the next connection to the living moment. Sounds, breath, the
Oh.
sense of just the
Okay, I'm
feelings of
I'm going to
sitting.
pretend to be a voice, okay? So I just want to hear I'm going to pretend to be a particular inner voice, not your inner voice, but let's pretend so I can see how you play this out. God, that person is breathing so heavily next to me in this meditation. It's seriously irritating to me.
Yes. Oh, yeah. There's that voice that's really irritated. I hear you. Back to the next breath.
Oh God, my back is hurting. When are we going to sit on this cushion? Why do we have to sit on cushions? Why aren't there chairs here?
Right, right. You really want to sit in a chair. I hear you. And the back's hurting. Yeah. Back to the next breath.
Why am I thinking so much about these discursive thoughts? I am defining monkey mind. I just can't stand myself. I'm never going to get enlightened.
Ah, hello, hello, hello. You're really struggling. You're really struggling. I see you. I'm with you. Next breath.
When do I have to pick the kids up? What time is it? Wait, what time is it? How long have we been sitting on this cushion?
Ah, yes. Hi there. Hello. So it's just
Okay, so you're kind of
repeat.
going throughout the whole time, going like, hi. So in the meditation, you're having like, oh, I hear you. Hi, I hear you. So it's almost like they do. It's actually a technique, and I am a mediator, and in mediation, they talk about paraphrasing or reframing or just basically hearing the other person because when the person doesn't feel heard, then
Right.
guess what happens? They repeat
Right.
that thing over and over and over
Right.
again.
Right. Yeah, it's got similarities to that. And I
Yeah.
would say the main point is that there is the one that sees, that's closer to the true I, the one that can observe anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's whatever appears. And when you can step back from the appearances of the moment and remember that you are more than that voice,
Mm-hmm.
that voice, it's the traditional analogy is to have the experience that you are like this vast blue sky.
Mm.
And there are clouds that come and go, and sometimes they're really thick and they stay for a while, but the sky is always blue behind those clouds.
Ah, so you can recognize, you can differentiate. Well, here's a nice little cloud floating by thinking about lunch. But don't
It's
forget
like
there's
that.
a blue sky back there.
It's like that. It's
Okay.
like that. It's more
Okay.
a little more subtle, but it's like that.
Ah, okay,
Yeah.
got it. So you've been practicing. You started when you were 18. You read an
Right.
article, and so was it something like it's you kind of arrived at that article gave you enough to know what you're supposed to do, which is basically what we just did.
Yeah, very similar. It's a
Okay.
kind of a form. There's a form that you sit in, but that's basically the construct of it. And there I was kind of simultaneously experiencing how busy my mind was
Mm-hmm.
and then discovering that there was a way of working with that.
Okay, got it.
So,
You mean the acknowledging friendly part? Is that the one working with it?
yeah, well, I would say that's the friendliness had to grow. That's more my teaching. In
Yes.
Zen, it's just being with what is. They don't emphasize friendly. So there. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like
That's
it's
your
easy.
modification of the Zen. Because my girlfriend is in Zen, and she's like, I can, and she's very proud, and I would be too, that she could sit silent and still with stillness for 45 minutes an hour. And I thought, wow, that sounds kind of austere and
Yeah.
unfriendly to
Yeah,
me.
yeah. So there've been modifications over the years, but the main point is that when I was 18, I realized that I had a mind
Mm-hmm.
that was all over the place, that I had a way to work with it, and then the next step from there was discovering that uh, I discovered yoga and I discovered some other ways of listening to your body. All of this
Mm.
before I was 22, which was when I
Wow.
met Moshe Feldenkrais.
Ah, okay. So you started
So,
having a sense of a body awareness and
right,
understanding when your body was speaking to you.
right, and that body awareness is a doorway to the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
That if you can feel, like right now, to feel where your right hand is,
Mm-hmm.
you need to come out of your thoughts and enter the present moment. So your bodily awareness always can ground you in presence. So
Mm.
that was the very early on an insight into what the embodied life was going to be about.
Mm.
From way back then, I realized, oh, there's sitting meditation, but we also need to help people ground in their physical bodies.
Right.
And so then I discovered Moshe Feldenkrais, and he was the leading edge, still is, in body awareness and movement awareness, and working with everything from athletes, musicians, to people who are really brain injured or really hurt. And it covers a very broad spectrum of people who, of all people, who can learn to move in new, more functional ways through being more aware of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the key, is the awareness.
Yeah, it's funny. I just took a Feldenkrais class
Yeah.
this Wednesday, and I said, "So when is our meditation going to start?" Or I was like, "So if there was a new person, I'm like, so when is the meditation going to start?" He's like, "Well, it's not a meditation." And I thought, actually, for me, it is. Like when I go into Feldenkrais, I'm focusing on my right foot and where it hits the ground, and my left foot
Mm-hmm.
and how it hits the ground, and where it hits the ground and where my weight is placed. Is it on the back of my heel or on the right or on the edge of my
Mm-hmm.
foot, or like those are the kinds of things that how
Yeah.
often in life do you even focus on those
Right.
kind of body things? It
Yeah.
is to me like an even more intense version of yoga.
It is. It is. It's Feldenkrais had a unique understanding that from back in the 30s and 40s when he was developing the work that now has been validated in neurological research about neuroplasticity, how the brain grows new patterns. And he was not just, oh, go inside and be aware. He was not fundamentally a meditator. He
No.
was a martial artist.
Mm-hmm.
He was a tough guy who fought for his life
Mm-hmm.
in Palestine. He was on the beaches, dealing with people fighting with knives, and so he was very grounded in reality. So he developed ways of growing new movement patterns that are not only help you to be more efficient in movement, but through his way of working, you learn to be more aware of yourself.
Mm.
And so he grew these great movement lessons,
Yeah. And
many of them.
they're
Yeah.
super powerful too because every time I go into Feldenkrais, I feel like I just learned a class from Harry Potter. Like
Yeah,
someone
right.
just taught me something. I'm like, what? My hips are moving in ways that I never expected. This is
Right.
crazy. I was wondering if you could share with us something that a very simple exercise that people who are either listening to just the audio or watching the video could try, either
Sure.
with their hands or sitting, or I don't know, just something super
Yeah.
simple so they can understand, have an experiential sense of what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. So if they're sitting, first, just to feel how you're sitting, to
Mm-hmm.
feel your bottom
Mm-hmm.
on the support, to feel the where your feet are. So we want to ground in the present moment to feel how you are, and then just slowly begin to turn your head a little bit right and left, just a little bit, feeling how far down your back do you feel some movement, what happens in your shoulders. And you're not trying to move it very far, you're just
Right.
feeling how.
It's not like a yoga thing where I'm pressing down and
Right,
trying to. It's like
right.
try to do it where it's easy, simple, good.
Exactly. And
Okay.
feel, what do you feel in your shoulders, how your body does this. And now, the next time, move your shoulders and your head to the right. Stay there. Stay there and just move your head back.
Back to in the center.
Yes. And move your head back to the right. And then move your head back to the center and back to the right. And now move your head and shoulders to center. And now just move your head to the right and feel how it moves now.
Yeah, it's further. It's
Yeah,
much more easy.
and it's smoother.
Yeah.
So it's an example of just taking a.
Well, what the heck happened there?
It's a classic, actually very important biological idea that if we take a movement and we move it in a non-differentiated way, meaning the shoulders and head together, and then we differentiate. We move the head relative to the shoulders.
Right.
Then when we go back to our neutral position and you go back to moving the head will have learned, actually the body, the brain will have learned, oh, I can easily move my head a little bit more and much more smoothly after having differentiated the shoulders and the head.
Ah, okay,
That's
yeah.
a
So it's
kind of,
like isolating one thing because we did
right.
something where my shoulder was with or without the movement, and then like we kind of separate it. So if
Right.
we can dissect this again, let's do the left side so we can now that we understand the thing, we
Okay.
can
Well,
go through
actually, I
it.
want to do it differently on the
Okay.
left side just to give you some fun.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Yes. Yay.
So, so turn with your head and shoulders to the left.
Like this.
Okay. Just move. Stay there. Stay to the left. Okay. You don't even have to go so far.
Okay.
Okay.
That's where I naturally go, but
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. And then move your eyes to the right without moving anything else. And your eyes to the left. And your eyes to the right. And your eyes to the left. Now, keep your shoulders where they are, your head and eyes to the right.
Head and eyes to the right.
And now then just your eyes to the left. Okay, now let the shoulders come back to neutral also. And now turn and look to your left and feel how that goes.
Wow, it's just incredible.
You
So
see?
we isolated. So in that particular case, all right. So we'll just break that down. So you had
Yes.
me move, like, which is, how often do I stand like this and then
Right.
hold it, and then
Right.
how often do I rotate my eyes? So there's this kind of I'm kind of holding frozen in a position,
Right.
my shoulders and my gait, my head. So it's all towards the left, and then with my eyes, I'm moving to the right, to the
Right.
left,
And so you can
right and
imagine
left.
what's happening in your brain. Your brain is normally moving the eyes with the head. Now it's differentiating. So the whole pattern
Oh,
gets interrupted for a little while.
okay.
And then when you come back and then you return to a normal movement, it's like the whole system has been un-
I see. So, like, I just introduced so talking about neuroplasticity. Okay, how many times have I done this? My eyes
right,
tracking in the same way that I'm
right,
turning and my shoulders turning, like about a bajillion times, right? So I
right.
have like one road that I've been
Okay.
driving down a bajillion times, right? And so now I'm doing this and I'm doing something with my eyes. I don't even know if I've ever done that my whole life.
Right. It's crazy. Some of his inventions were really far out. He was such a unique thinker.
Okay,
Such
but
a
when I'm doing this, okay, I'm going like this and right and left, like all of a sudden I'm building new neurocircuitry in my brain saying like, "Hey, did you realize that you could actually go like this and move your right and eyes to the left?" Like
right.
is that and then but why is it that now I've done that? Okay, I do my habitual thing. I've added a new neural pathway. But
Right.
why is it when I go here, then all of a sudden it's like, "Hey, I can rotate my hand
Well,
further."
okay, so the complex reason, I don't know if you want the complex
Oh,
one,
sure,
but
why not?
the whole, every system, whether it's a family, a government, your body, the ecology of the planet, every system that gets further differentiated, where each part can move more,
Hmm.
it has the potential to integrate at a higher level than it was before. I'll give you a simple
Oh,
example.
yeah.
So, uh, let's say in a marriage where the roles, say 20, 30, 40 years ago, where the roles were much more rigidly defined, there's more stability to the system, but less potential,
Right.
right? And less potential for each element of the system as well as the whole system.
Right.
Now, if as those gender roles get more diversified,
Hmm.
and each part of the system can now do new things.
Ah.
If they come back together and integrate, that marriage can be stronger and each individual can be stronger because they're bringing more potential to the system.
Ah, okay, got it. So if we use this, this is kind of what I've done, 1950s marriage. Okay,
Right,
like I'm doing this, and then when I move my eyes to the right and left, I'm
right,
expanding something that
right.
was not done before,
That's
and
right.
then all of a sudden when I'm moving my head, now when I don't know what happened with the integration, but somehow I'm integrating all this stuff
That's right. Your
and
brain,
going,
yes,
look, CJ can move in a different way. So that's what
that's
is
right.
that's kind of
That's
the
right.
body
That's right.
expression of the same thing.
And what's
Fascinating.
so interesting is that every system works like that. You can learn so much about life. Now,
Mm,
the caveat is that if the system is broken up too quickly,
mm-hmm.
then it can't integrate. Then it disintegrates. So it's like
Mm,
what happens, and when it disintegrates, either it moves toward anarchy or rigidity. Like in the Soviet Union, you could have predicted that somebody like Putin would come along because it broke up so quickly. Either it's going to move toward anarchy, which it started to do, or something strong is going to come along and try to make it solid again.
I see. So going back to the body, where you
Yeah.
actually had me do this, and then I did something with my shoulder and moved it like this, which I
Right.
don't normally do.
Right.
Like if I did that too quickly, like I'm gonna do. I just learned something from Russell. I'll
Right.
keep on doing this. I'm doing this the whole day long. I'm
Right.
like, "Wah," keeping on doing that. And my system can't integrate it or
Right.
digest it,
Right.
then there's
It might pull a muscle. You'll do something that will regress it. That's why the way we do the movement lessons, with
Uh,
gentleness, with humor, with listening, is not just to be nice.
right.
That's how the brain learns to integrate new patterns.
Okay, right. So that's why you do it slowly and not in a way. The thing I remember reading about Feldenkrais is if I do it and I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this, like
Right.
then it's like that hurts, and what the body goes is, like
I
whatever
don't
that
want to do
was,
this.
I'm
Right,
I'm rejecting that, whatever
right,
that is.
right,
Right.
right.
So it's kind of doing it slowly and like that's kind of nice, and then it's like, yeah, which I think is how seldomly we have that no pain, no gain model. It's a completely in opposition to that whole
It
idea.
is. It is. It's really recognizing that our system is intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a mechanism. It's not just an object. We're taught to treat our bodies like objects.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the great gifts of the embodied life and of Feldenkrais work is being a subject again, being the one in there, being in harmony of mind,
Right.
body, feelings, environment.
Right. Yeah, because we do think of, okay, what are you going to do for me lately? It's like, wait, no, this is like a body. It has feelings, it has
Yeah,
things it likes, it has
right,
things it
right.
doesn't.
And,
Just
and
like the mind, right, that's thinking about lunch. It's like, oh, I hear you, honey. The mind wants to be heard just like the body wants to be heard. Okay, so how do you integrate these things
okay,
together? How did you
well,
come at
let's
this?
go. Let's even go just one step further, and then we'll come to that.
Sure.
Is if we can see that the relationship we've been taught to have this object controlling relationship with our body
Right.
is exactly the same relationship that our cultures have with the planet.
Mm-hmm.
That we treat the body of the planet like an object, just like we've learned to treat our own bodies as
Mm-hmm.
objects,
Mm-hmm.
something there to serve us. So we are this whole system of what I call system of dominance that we were raised in, that produces so much cultural violence, is living in our own relationship with our own bodies.
That's a whole shamanic and like inside out, like whatever you see on the outside is happening on the inside, as
Right,
above, as below, as out.
right.
Yeah, whatever, the
Yeah.
same
So,
idea.
so what one of the things in the embodied life work that I'm so interested in is, of course, I'm interested in individuals growing into greater harmony with themselves and their immediate relationships. But I'm also interested in being one of the small voices speaking to a new cultural paradigm,
Right.
a new cultural paradigm that is very much more integrated in terms of masculine and feminine, which means that we can't just try to control the body. That's the negative masculine approach.
Right.
We want a listening relationship to life.
Right. Right.
And that's the embodied life work. We're working with how to grow that through sitting meditation, which means getting friendly with your own mind and body, with movement practices so that you can learn to sense yourself more clearly and learn to move in more harmonious ways. And then the third leg is what I call embodied inquiry,
Mm-hmm.
where we learn to listen to our feeling life in
Mm.
the same way we're listening to our bodies and our thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And to do, again, to be the best friend of our own inner world.
Mm-hmm.
And that, in my opinion, grows into how to be friendly with the world around us.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so tell me a little bit about that. I don't understand that fully. I understand what it means to be conscious of my feelings, but tell me the other part in terms of how, once I understand my feelings, it allows me to understand how I'm relating to the world around me.
Sure, that as you're in my opinion, when you're in greater harmony
Mm-hmm.
with your own body, with your own thoughts, and your own feelings, it's incomplete unless you're in really good contact with the environment around you.
Okay, got it. Like I'm because I'm part of a system. Fine, I'm
You're part of
fine.
the system.
But if I'm not integrating with the system itself, then
That's a
there's a
right. That's one of the big traps of a lot of spiritual paths, in my
uh,
opinion,
Yeah.
Is you see what I've discovered, CJ, is that you can't find yourself in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it for a second. You can't find yourself in yourself, but you can find yourself in relationship to everything that appears, which
Mm.
includes the outer world and the inner world.
I see. Okay, and then how do you, so you talked about Zen meditation, Feldenkrais. What is the component of the practice that you do for the emotional piece?
Well, it's a way of listening. It's very connected to a work called focusing that was developed by a man named Eugene Genlin.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's connected to that, but not the same as. It's a way of uh, speaking to the feeling places. Like we were
Mm.
talking about the thoughts before. Well, let's say someone is really sad.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to be really sad, the sadness is already in what I call your feeling body. We don't
Mm-hmm.
experience sadness just in our head.
Right.
It's a bodily felt sense.
Right.
So I help people to notice how they're carrying the sad place.
Okay.
And notice the language. It's not I am sad. It's there's a lot of sadness in here and I am with it.
Okay, so I'm going to use an example. So I'm actually, I just had a new meditation practice that is causing all sorts of energetic openings that are just making me feel fear of the unknown. And it kind of feels like, so my sense is it's this kind of feeling like, what does it mean? What is that? Will it come back? What the hell is this?
Right.
And then last night I woke up just kind of like anxious. So what I
Right.
felt it kind of here. So what would I do then with that?
Yeah, so exactly what you just did spontaneously. You brought your hands there.
Okay.
Say, "Oh yeah, there's a big, big anxious place in here. Oh yeah, I'm with you. I am with you."
So like being with the sensation of like,
Being with the sensation and the feeling, and then inviting any images. Like, is it the kind of anxious, like I feel like something's going to hurt me, or is it the kind of anxious that I feel like I'm losing my mind and going berserk and running all over the place? So every anxious is its own anxious.
okay, got it. Like for me, the anxious is of as I'm merging more with my higher self, there's a fear of losing my other self. Like, is
Ah,
that going to be deleted? Is it going to be
oh
changed? Is it,
yeah,
what's that?
yeah, yeah. Hello there. Hello. You're really worried about
Uh,
losing that other self that's also important. I hear you.
okay. So it's really acknowledging,
Right.
you're kind of like labeling, that's worrying, acknowledging, like, I hear you. And then you're also feeling the kind of,
All of that, the skills that you have
mhm.
as a mediator for other people, you bring in intimacy with yourself.
Okay, got it. So when I have a friendly relationship with my feelings, I have a friendly and exploratory relationship with my body, and I
Right.
have that with my mind. Then how do those three? So you've got the mind, body, and I don't know if it's is emotions a body or mind, body, body or.
Well, I would say that our feeling life lives in embodied ways.
Hmm.
The feelings are a combination of thoughts, images, and emotion in your body.
Hmm.
And together they form what we often call a felt sense. The way this whole thing is living in me.
Okay, got
So
it.
I call
That's why you
it,
say the embodied life because I'm kind of I'm owning and acknowledging and recognizing my thoughts that are inside this nugget,
yeah,
my body, which is
right.
doing who the heck knows what, but now I'm being aware of it, and then my feelings. So I'm
Right. And
embodying them.
and then what gets really interesting is that, or what gets further interesting, I think, is that all of this is happening in a world, in a larger world.
Right.
We never have an experience that's just inner. We
Mm-hmm.
are always in an environment.
Right.
And that is, the environment is not trivial. It's not just, oh yeah, I'm sitting in a chair. No, I'm sitting here talking to CJ there. And there's my desk. And if I was sitting in a large auditorium, I would be a little bit different. And
Mm-hmm.
if we were, that we are influenced by our environment always,
Mm-hmm.
and that to have this awareness of self, we don't have it just in ourselves. We have it walking through stores or walking through our home and
Mm.
meeting this person and having this conversation, and therefore I have this feeling. The feelings, the body, the thoughts don't live separate
Right. They're
from
all integrated
it's
together as I move through the world. All three of these things are happening. Okay, so let's just take a real pragmatic example, just so
but
people
I would
can
just want
ground
to
themselves.
remind you,
Yes.
we left me at 18, so I just want
Oh,
to.
we're still at 18.
That's okay, because this is a good conversation. But I just wanted to remind you.
Oh, okay. I thought we were at 22. I thought you meant Moshe
Oh, no,
Feldenkrais at
right. We
22.
got the Feldenkrais, right? We're 22.
Okay. All right. So tell us the rest of your life story, and then I want to use a practical example
Right.
afterwards. So,
Okay, I'll
so
do it. I'll do it briefly. I'll
yeah,
do
tell us because the greatest hits, right? Like you met Mother Teresa.
it.
How?
Yeah. Okay. So I studied with Moshe Feldenkrais. I got very close with him. I was so blessed by
Mm,
that. And then I got interested in working with brain injured children.
mm-hmm.
And then in the early 80s, I traveled to India with my wife, and I really wanted to visit Mother Teresa's mission in Calcutta. I went there and I saw there were a lot of brain injured children. And I told the sisters that I worked with brain injured children, and they got really interested. And they said,
Mm,
"Could you show us?" So I created what's called the Feldenkrais India Project, and we
mm,
went back to India in 1984, the next year, and we worked every day in Calcutta. Well, we worked 6 weeks, 7 days a week, and then we spent the
yeah.
next 6 months visiting other missions of Mother Teresa. But Mother was staying in the next door house, Mother House, next to the place we were working called Shishu Bhavan, and she got interested in our project, so she scheduled weekly meetings with us.
Oh
So,
my goodness!
so we would
Wow.
knock on her, we'd walk up the stairs to her bedroom, and we'd sit in her bedroom. And she would ask us about what was happening, and we'd have basically approximately half-hour meetings each week with Mother Teresa. Not real, we knew it was special, but
Yeah.
not realizing quite the
Okay, so you had one-on-one half-hour meetings with Mother Teresa weekly. Okay, what was that like? Oh my
well,
gosh.
she was amazing. She was so. Um, it's so interesting. She had to give approval. I was the first man who was allowed to work in this facility,
Uh-huh.
and so we developed a kind of open relationship, which was very nice. She let me come to evening prayers
Mm-hmm.
with the sisters, and and Mother was fascinating in that she had a really good sense of humor, really down to
Wow.
earth, very pragmatic. Um, she one night in prayer we saw her biting her nails. She was like all really worried. Go, what's going on with Mother? And the next day we realized this Dutch industrialist gave her $50 million that she was negotiating, and she didn't
Oh,
know what was going to happen. But she was an amazing businesswoman
wow. That's
in this,
incredible.
very simple, but also very tough.
Yeah.
She was not she was not sweet in a certain way, although she was very funny.
Mm-hmm.
The first meeting we had with her, she said, "Why did you come here?" We go, "What, Mother? We're here." You go, "Well, aren't there people in your country you can help?" And then she goes, "Do you know your neighbors?
Oh, wow.
Have you asked them if they need help?"
Wow.
So she would hit us with really mind. Then of course she was also happy that we were there.
Yeah.
But every week there was something. One week there was a child I was working with every day who had never crawled. He was never allowed out of a crib. And I worked with him, and it was a miracle. He began to crawl. As he began to crawl, he began to make sounds. He was nonverbal before that. By
Mm.
our last week, he was taking his first steps, and
Whoa.
it was amazing. And so I went to Mother and I said, "Amazing, amazing! Shivani's walking and speaking." And she looks out the window. She says, "There's so little we can do. You help one and look at all the others."
That wouldn't have been my thought.
So it was a Zen master
Yeah.
taking me out of this.
You're right. You should let go of the attachment of that.
Right. And
Like if
this,
you wanted me
look
to
at the
applaud
great
you,
things. Look at what I
yeah,
did.
yeah. Don't get. I'm going to knock you off your peg. If you think you're like a great healer or whatever, don't.
Right. But then the next week we had one kid who was just not responding very much. And uh, we went up and we were just heavy. We were just kind of depressed. We were in Calcutta now for 6 weeks, and it was getting to be a lunch.
Right.
And she looked out the window. She says, "Isn't it amazing?" I said, "What, Mother?" She goes, "Each drop in the bucket is fuller."
She was like the first life coach.
She was Yoda. She was
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
so that was pretty amazing.
Wow.
So Moshe Feldenkrais was a gift. Mother Teresa was a gift. Um, when Ram Dass had his stroke, I got to give him a number of private sessions, and we
Mm,
got to be very friendly. I spent 5 New Years with Ram Dass, so I was
mm.
just gifted with
Wow.
incredible teachers and teachings. I had a Zen master for 30 years who was really very, very helpful. So, yeah,
Wow.
in
Wow.
recent years, in the last 10 years, this man, Eugene Genlin, who
Hmm.
developed this focusing work. So I've been guided in so many wonderful ways.
Yeah, and what I love about it is that you've integrated into a body
Right,
of work called the
right,
embodied life. And so now it's these three things kind of
right,
working in integration. And
right.
we're going to say goodbye to our listeners. But what I'd like to do
Okay.
is make a YouTube video to
Yeah.
actually talk about how those three things work in practice.
And to come to the seminar this weekend.
Okay, and I'm just going to remind folks that it's this weekend, March 4th through the 6th. The first night is an introduction from 7 to 8:30 at the Greenwood Masonic Lodge, and then the rest is a weekend retreat from 10 to 5 from on the March 5th and 6th. And you can also sign up on Russell Delman, RussellDelman.com. And what should someone expect on the 10 to 5 period?
Yeah, so we'll be doing a combination of things. We'll be doing Feldenkrais movement. There'll be guided meditations with chairs or the floor so people can be comfortable.
I was just pretending.
Yeah, guided meditations, Feldenkrais movement, conversations that help people to develop a different relationship to their inner life, and then other kinds of guided experiences, guided practices. So uh, it's not a seminar that's meant to be just theoretical. It's meant to that when you wake up Monday morning, you have new tools, new ways of working with yourself that many people find transformative.
Beautiful. Okay. We're going to end this part of the conversation, but watch us on YouTube because we're going to do kind of how you integrate the whole thing in an actual
Okay.
practical life experience. Thank you so much, Russell.
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show. I would love your support in any way by giving me comments below or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.